Hello everyone. Today I will tell you a story. The story is titled, A Day at Home When Tama Doesn't Want to Go Outside. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you appreciate me. You can skip this if you don't and oppose. Like this video. Thank you very much. The story begins as follows. Mornings in our house usually begin with a familiar routine. The alarm rings, sunlight sneaks through the curtains, and Tama, my dog, normally jumps up from his bed with a quiet excitement, tail tapping against the floor like a soft drum. On most days, he waits by the door even before I finish brushing my teeth, eyes bright, ears alert, already imagining the smells and sounds waiting outside. But this morning was different. When I opened my eyes and looked toward Tama's corner, I didn't see him standing. He was still curled up, chin resting on his paws, blinking lazily as if the day itself hadn't fully convinced him to begin. I called his name gently, expecting him to stretch and trot over. Instead, he lifted his head, wagged his tail once, slowly, and then placed his head back down. It wasn't sickness. It wasn't fear. It was something much simpler. Tama just didn't want to go outside today. As I moved around the house preparing breakfast, Tama followed me, but not with his usual urgency. He stayed close, brushing against my leg, then settling near the kitchen mat. When I reached for the leash, he looked at it briefly, tilted his head, and then calmly walked away toward the sofa. That moment made me pause. I realized how often I assume my dog's needs based on routine, not emotion. Walks, playtime, outdoor adventures, these are things I believe he should want every day. But Tama, like any living being, has moods. Some days are for movement and exploration. Others are for rest. So I put the leash down. Tama noticed immediately. He returned, tail wagging a little faster now, and hopped onto the sofa, curling up beside me. The house felt quieter than usual, but not empty. It felt warm, shared, and gentle. We spent the morning together doing very little, and somehow, it felt like enough. By late morning, the sun had climbed higher, filling the living room with soft light. Tama lay stretched out near the window, belly exposed, paws twitching slightly, as if he were dreaming of something pleasant. I sat nearby with a cup of tea, working quietly, glancing at him from time to time. Normally, staying home all day would make me restless. I'm used to movement, schedules, goals. But Tama's calm presence slowed me down. His breathing was steady, unbothered by time or responsibility. Watching him, I felt my own thoughts begin to soften. At one point, Tama got up and wandered toward his toy basket. He sniffed through it carefully, selected a slightly worn plush toy, and carried it over to me. He didn't drop it at my feet demanding play. Instead, he placed it gently beside me, sat down, and waited. That small gesture felt like an invitation, not to do something energetic, but to simply share a moment. We played slowly. I tossed the toy only a short distance. Tama retrieved it without rushing, sometimes stopping halfway just to lie down and chew it contentedly. There was no urgency, no expectation of excitement, just quiet enjoyment. Later, while I prepared lunch, Tama sat nearby, watching with patient curiosity. He didn't beg. He didn't bark. He simply wanted to be close. When I sat down to eat, he rested his head against my knee, eyes half closed, trusting and peaceful. In the afternoon, we moved back to the sofa. I read while Tama slept, occasionally shifting positions so that at least one part of him was touching me. A paw, a tail, his warm back pressed against my leg. That physical connection felt grounding, like an unspoken reassurance that neither of us was alone. I realized that Tama wasn't refusing the outside world. He was choosing the inside one. The shared space, the familiar smells, the quiet companionship. And by staying with him, I was choosing it too. As evening approached, the sky outside turned soft shades of orange and gray. Normally, this would be our second walk of the day. Tama would sit by the door, alert again, ready for movement. But today, he remained where he was, lifting his head briefly when I stood up, then settling back down when he saw I wasn't reaching for the leash. Instead, I sat beside him on the floor. I ran my hand slowly through his fur, feeling its warmth and texture, noticing how familiar it had become over the years. Tama looked up at me, eyes gentle, full of trust. In that moment, I felt deeply aware of our relationship, not built on commands or routines, but on understanding. Tama didn't need stimulation today. He needed presence. As night fell, we shared dinner time quietly. Afterward, Tama followed me to the bedroom and curled up in his usual spot. Before falling asleep, he glanced at me once more, tail giving a small, satisfied wag. The day hadn't been productive by any measurable standard. We hadn't walked far, trained commands, or explored anything new, but it had been meaningful. Because sometimes, love doesn't look like action. Sometimes, it looks like staying in. Tama's choice to stay home that day reflects something deeply relevant to our modern lives. In a world that constantly pushes us to move faster, do more, and always be productive, we often forget the value of rest, stillness, and emotional awareness. Just like humans, animals have inner rhythms. Respecting those rhythms builds trust and strengthens the bond between us. From Tama, we learn that love is not about forcing routines, but about listening. When we observe our pets closely, recognizing their moods, needs, and comfort, we create a relationship based on empathy rather than control. This approach doesn't only benefit animals, it gently reshapes how we treat ourselves and others. In daily life, we can apply this lesson by allowing space for rest without guilt, by paying attention to emotional signals, our own and those of people around us, and by valuing presence over performance. Small moments of quiet companionship can be more healing than any busy activity. Most importantly, Tama reminds us that the human-animal bond is a partnership. When we care with patience and understanding, animals give us something priceless in return: unconditional trust, emotional grounding, and a softer way to exist in the world. And sometimes, the best day is simply one spent together, doing nothing, but feeling everything.